Welcome, Bite to Big Content. My name is Nick Ercolano. I run Big Dogs Gotta Eat, bdge.
I want you to introduce me.
That's Jack Settleman. Not sure what he does, but he comes here every Wednesday to film big content with me.
What's going on?
It's 2 days after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I'm back to not being thankful for nothing.
Nothing.
Nah.
Okay. All right. Well, we're starting this one off with ESPN BET. In last week's episode, you did a solo episode where you talked about the best way to get a partnership with Underdog Fantasy, the steps you would go about it. So we have a question here. With ESPN BET launching, how do creators approach reaching out or getting a partnership deal with them?
Why I think this is particularly important, ESPN BET, is the industry itself is pretty saturated right now. Like DraftKings, FanDuel, you can get a promo code with Underdog, but everybody's already on those platforms. Mm-hmm. So right now, it feels like if you can become a partner with ESPN BET, there's a good chance that you can capture a decent amount of new players onto the platform and make a lot of money off of it. So I think it's important, especially as our audience is very like sports centric and sports focused, that we kind of talk about this process. I don't actually personally have an ESPN BET promo code right now, and I don't know if you guys do either. So originally, my experience so far with it is this. There was a kid that reached out to me on LinkedIn like a month or two ago, and he worked for, on his profile, it said like Penn/Barstool. So I wasn't sure which company he actually worked for. It turned out he worked for Penn, which means now he's working with like ESPN BET. And so about 3 or 4 weeks ago, he was like, yeah, I love your guys' content. I think he listened to big content as well as some of the fantasy stuff. And he was like, when we launch ESPN BET, like we should figure out a way to like partner. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. That'd be cool. We don't have an actual sportsbook partnership. And then he was like, oh, we don't have budget. We don't know where we're going with budget right now. So we're going to like circle back when it launches. Obviously launched. And now I hear some of the podcasts in the space that have like promo codes with ESPN BET. And I reached back out to him, but I haven't got a response yet. So now I'm sitting here like, okay, this is something I should probably pursue just given the opportunity that's there, because I do think it could be a nice moneymaker. I think sportsbooks tend to have more marketing dollars typically behind first-time depositor type stuff. And especially an ESPN-backed company, they're going to have money to give out. So it's easy for me to sit there and talk about, hey, here's how you get an Underdog promo code, because I know so many people that work there personally. From someone that's worked with like big companies, big media companies, smaller media companies, you know, on Underdog, they're not that small anymore. If you wanted to go get an ESPN BET promo code, one, have you thought about that? Are you planning on trying to get one?
Well, we're exclusive fully with Underdog as a sportsbook fantasy.
Fair. What advice would you give to me on the flip side if I wanted to go get an ESPN BET promo code if I didn't have any sort of connections at ESPN?
Yeah, in like 15 seconds, if you want the full details on how to get an Underdog code, go back to the last video. We might even be able to put it like right here in the video. But give like 15 seconds of how you would do it in the quickest steps possible for Underdog, because I want to set the differentiation.
Sure. So for Underdog, what I would normally do is treat the company as just individual human beings. So I would go onto Twitter, LinkedIn, type in Underdog Fantasy. Therefore, the people that have Underdog Fantasy in their profile would normally be the ones that work there. Reach out to them with a personalized direct message of, here's who I am, here's what I could do for you guys. Can you put me in touch with someone to talk to your affiliate marketing program or your, you know, just your marketing people, whatever. And normally those people, because they're not overloaded with 1,000 people doing that, where ESPN BET might, they'll get you in touch with the right people in the company, and then you can kind of talk about whether or not you're a good fit.
Cool.
I think.
So I think the big differentiation in these two is, depending on your size, obviously, anyone can theoretically get a promo code from Underdog. Not anyone, but even smaller creators who are maybe only going to bring a few people to the platform. Maybe it's just their friends, but, 20 more people, Underdog's cool with that, and they'll pay you for that. I think with ESPN BET, you're looking at direct affiliate. So the podcasts that you're listening to are probably on an affiliate basis, meaning that they are not getting paid any guaranteed amount of money. And I'm not sure if they would just give a code to anyone. So like the ones I've seen are like Action Network, who, has partnership with every sports book, or What were some of the podcasts? Were
I think Establish the Run with Evan
right,
Silva
right,
and
Estab-
Levitan, maybe Fantasy Pros. I remember hearing
Right.
it in 2 individual
So
ones.
so it's all those companies that are kind of like affiliates, not as much like partnerships.
Sure,
with them.
and that's even what I'm talking about. Like, I
Yeah.
wouldn't expect to be a partner with
Okay.
ESPN, and even with Underdog. Like when I was explaining it in the last video, it was like they'll give a promo code to anyone because there's no downside for them, right? Because like they're not giving any individual creator money up front that they haven't worked with before, that hasn't proven, then they can get, you know, thousands of signups for them already. So it's like, okay, we give you the code. If you don't get any signups, we don't pay you. It's similar to a lawyer who's like, I'll take you on as a client. You don't pay me unless we win, kind of thing. Whereas like ESPN, I would go into it with the mindset, I'm not negotiating for like a price up front.
Yeah.
I just know that the opportunity is so grand because nobody's signed up for the sportsbook yet, that we're going to crush it for the next 6 months. And then if we want to revisit that like partnership, hey, you guys pay us up front to promote your thing, we could do that. But because it's so new, that's where I would be
I don't
looking.
know if they're going to do partnerships outside of their pre-existing talent. Is that's kind of the first thing that came to my mind.
Okay.
It's like the reason ESPN exists, the reason that they paid Pat McAfee and his buddies all that money is because that's now the talent for their sports book. And I'm not saying it'll never happen, but I think at least in the beginning, that's like the value prop behind the whole thing is they have the built-in audience and personalities to go and promote the sportsbook. So how would I go about getting it? I think
affiliate code.
Yeah, I think it's the exact same thing as you said. It might be more difficult because, you know, people haven't updated their Twitter bio to ESPN Bet because it just happened the last however many weeks. But LinkedIn makes sense. I actually know someone on LinkedIn who's running the affiliate program. So message me if you want. And
realistically, that was the first thing I said in the video too. It was like, go out, throw in Underdog in LinkedIn or Twitter, but use your network too. Like if you're listening to this podcast, then you probably have some sort of connection to me or Jack, whether in Discord or on Twitter or whatever. You can reach out to us. We can help you that way. And this, like, you knowing the person who runs the affiliate program.
No, I don't know if they run it, but literally
sort of
ESPN Bet affiliate marketing.
Right. So I'm going to talk to you about that afterwards.
Yeah.
So use your network. Be resourceful.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Okay. So nothing useful.
No, I think that's you covered it all last week. The one useful thing would be before you just go and get ESPN Bet, because you're saying, you know, everyone's on DraftKings and FanDuel, maybe there's not value there. The one piece of value would probably be finding out the market rate. So that's the one thing that there's no risk to an Underdog or Prize Picks or to an ESPN Bet, but they're less likely to, or they're more likely to just give you a bad rate for your player. And I'll add one caveat with the sports betting stuff. I don't know the technical laws and what level you have to be, but sometimes you have to be licensed to be an affiliate.
Yeah, and that actually could get a little bit tricky. So not every individual creator can get it. I also am not sure because when we first started working with Mojo, that was the first like legal sports book we ever did, and we had to get a license in Jersey. And we only had to do Jersey, obviously, because they were only legally operating in Jersey. Right. So ESPN Bet, they took Penn's licenses immediately, or rebranded Penn's. They're 17.
There are some companies that will give like umbrella licenses. So like the umbrella company is licensed in all those states, and then you're kind of like a contractor of it. They're obviously going to take a portion of your thing, but it is much easier because when we got licensed in a state, I think it probably cost me, I don't know, a couple $1,000. So if you think, you know, we might only get X dollars from ESPN Bet, it probably doesn't make sense.
And I feel like you only need to do that if you're working strictly on an affiliate basis. I don't know if you need to actually get licensed in the states.
No, it's each state. It would be each state.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was
I'm
only
not
for
sure, but
I thought it was only if you're getting paid, because like Mojo, we had cash being paid up. Like you're getting paid to promote the brand regardless of affiliate signups.
Yeah. I'm sure we can just ask someone and find that out.
And they'll know too. Like the other thing with sportsbooks, when you get in touch with them, because I remember I got in touch with like Caesars at one point, and they were like, "Hey, let us know what states you have licenses for." So if you reach out to ESPN Bet and they don't ask you that, then they probably don't need them. But that will be one of the first questions that they ask you if you
or they don't know because they're brand new.
That's fine. Then it's on them. Then it's on them. You know how the law works.
All right. Well, that's ESPN Bet. Hit us in the DMs if you would like to speak to them. So next up is some thumbnail stuff. So you lead this one.
Yeah. So I want to get into more more of like the details of really being like a content creator, because I think these are the things that matter. It's easy to talk like high level about like, oh, I'm making money, but like in order to even get to the point where you're gonna make money, there's so much of that like experiment, grinding, like fucking around kind of thing that you need to really like get in the mud in order to do so. So I wanted to highlight this creator who goes by the name of Jay Thomas on Twitter. His bio says, helping you write better YouTube titles using psychology. And he writes one of my favorite newsletters every single week called Creator Hooks. And it is this really simple premise of highlighting 5 YouTube videos that went viral over the last week or two, and then breaking down each video succinctly within a paragraph and saying like why it worked. And here is the formula from that title that you could use in your industry. And the reason I'm highlighting him is, one, I think he does like great work, and I think everybody should follow him that does YouTube stuff. But secondly, because he now launched a product where he has like Creator Hooks is his newsletter, but now he has this membership site that's called Creator Hooks Pro. And his big like hook, the big thing he has now that he just launched to get people to sign up for it, is this title generator tool. So you go on there and you type in like the subject of your video, and then you can type in like the industry, and then it rips you like 20 different title generations based on like all of the titles that he's put into his database or whatever. And I think
Did you use it?
I've used it before, yeah. So I will say, realistically, it's not much, kind of bad timing for him. It's not that much better than like ChatGPT going ask for alternative titles. Yeah. Transparently, not that much better. But I just wanted to highlight the like, he's probably doing really, really well. A lot of his audience probably doesn't know about ChatGPT, whatever, using it. He did a great job of just like understanding the value. One, it's a super niche fucking like content stream that he has.
Yes and no. Like niche meaning it's very specific, not a small audience.
Right. Like, okay, there are a lot of people that do like YouTube videos.
Yeah.
There are not a lot of people obsessed with like perfecting their title and thumbnail. You know what I mean?
Maybe today, but how many people do you think are on his newsletter?
I have no idea.
Like, what would you guess? I know it's with a newsletter stuff, but he could have 10,000, right?
Yeah, he probably has over 10,000.
Right? So if he gets 1,000 of those people, that could be an insane revenue drive.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying like the people that he's talking to, it's not I don't think it's a large, you look at like sports. If you do sports content, the fucking demographic for you is massive. Yeah. You do YouTube creators, it's very small.
But there's like millions of YouTube creators now.
I wouldn't call most of them YouTube creators. Like people who just like put up videos are not like obsessed with making their titles and thumbnails like really well.
Yeah.
I don't think, at least.
It's early on YouTube.
Sure. And the point I was getting at was like he did such a good job of being like, this is my niche. This is my value that I'm giving to them. Here's how you make great titles, right? And I'm giving you the expertise on it. And here is a product that directly fucking links to the value that I've given you. It's like people who love his product, people who sign up for his newsletter are like, I'm reading this to make improvements to my titles. Yeah. Now he's like,
here's the tool. Yeah.
Here is a product that now makes your titles easy.
How much is it?
20 something a month, I think. So you can get like an annual subscription.
Yeah.
And again, like before like ChatGPT came around or whatever, this is something I would have probably just purchased and been like, this is a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
Don't know if I personally.
And ChatGPT, I guess it is free. I pay for the premium.
Okay. Yeah. I know like JL does, but he has a lot of like coding value that comes from the.
Yeah. I get no value out of it.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm just highlighting like a creator that I think has done a really good job, like nailing his value niche, growing slowly, and then launching a product that is so directly valued or so directly linked to like the values giving off. Because I think a lot of creators, when they make products or try to start monetizing, don't really understand the value that they're giving off and how to link it to a product or service. And I think he did such a good job of doing it. And it's an innovative concept, like the title generator. Had it not been for like the AI tools out there, you know? So like he probably worked with someone who's good with math, someone who's a developer or something like that to make this stuff happen.
To really nail it, I feel like he adds AI generation with his own customization.
Yes.
Like that's where you really get it. Does the YouTube titles that ChatGPT gives you, like how would you rate them 1 to 10?
I've actually been using Google Bard a lot more.
Google what?
Bard.
What is that?
That's their version of ChatGPT.
Oh, okay.
They've been getting better. When I first started using them, I was like, maybe like a 6.5, but good for like direction, inspiration. especially if I'm like, oh, I thought of like a really cool title, but it's 80 characters. I'll put it in and give me 10 high engagement alternative titles to this with 55 characters or fewer.
Yeah.
And they'll spit
like
back.
When you plug it into creator hooks, can you pick a format that he has? Like what?
I don't think so.
See, that's the biggest thing. That's what would take it to the next level is if he had like 100 formats that he's written in all his newsletters. And he was like, I like these 4. Here's the keyword.
You're allowed to pick the direction that the title goes in. So it's like you can pick like beginner, fear, comedy, something like that. So there is like capability to it.
Okay.
So I just think those things are really, really important, and like getting familiar with the tools out there that you have. Like you might think you have a good title, put it into ChatGPT, see what 10 alternatives are, and it might spark a different direction for it as well. And it might spark something that you weren't thinking of. It might not give you the exact title, but maybe it combines what you had.
And are you doing this before or after you create a thumbnail? Because one thing that we've been working on, so if you guys haven't listened before, we have a YouTube consultant. His name is Trent, and he's been helping us with packaging, which I didn't know what packaging was. It's just a combination of title and the thumbnail, but it's also the beginning of the video. So that's kind of like the full package, as I would describe it, or he would describe it. And what we've seen is like, we'll be like, oh, we actually really like this title, but we already have the thumbnail made. And it's like, that actually doesn't match the thumbnail. So what steps are you taking? Are you normally thumbnail made first or title first?
I think now that I'm thinking about it, title first.
Yeah.
I think I've moved into that direction.
And I'm sure most people probably go thumb first.
I think the title's more important than the thumbnail.
I think both are should be a perfect match.
I agree.
Is really what
they need to be a perfect match, but I think the title can get people hooked in. Like there's not a world you could put a shitty thumbnail up but have a great title and get people to click.
Yeah.
I think if you put a good thumbnail up and your title is terrible, no one's going to click.
Agreed. And I guess from Punchline, which is our podcast that we do with Marlon Humphrey, our thumbs are kind of the same every week, and it really
that's fine. The title is what
it's
we'll
the
do.
Title that.
But if you put just like you and Marlon talking, and then like your title is like Week 12 recap, going to do worse than being like
Derrick Henry was almost a Raven. Like that was the one 100%. Thing that we had.
So title, I think title is the avenue you should attack it from, and then start thinking of like creative ideas that go along with the title. Keep it simple, and that kind of goes into the next thread I have, which I want to bring up. Just it's almost like a 4-tweet masterclass on thumbnails, in my opinion, where the guy basically looks at a thumbnail. He's like, can you spot the mistakes in the thumbnail that make it less effective? So basically he's looking at this orange one, which we'll put on the screen. Yeah. And he says, there's just too much to look at and read, removing word and logo, increasing the size of the subject to fill a frame. So having the person be like blown up is really, really important. And one thing that both of us have done that I think have made our thumbnails a million times better, just as individual brands, is we sat down one day and we got this big picture of like 40 different emotions, and turn your camera to you, put it on 4K, and then just sit there for like 3-4 minutes and make every expression into the camera. And at the end of it, you'll have a 3 to 4 minute video with your face making every expression. You'll be able to now go rewatch a video, screenshot each time you make an expression, throw it into remove background, throw it into Photoshop, whatever you use for it. And you'll be able to just have your face there, 4K, like really high quality. Now you can just throw those into thumbnails depending on the expression that you want to use in the thumbnail.
One thing that I've adjusted is the company that had us do that video, which I think is a great concept to do, and it gives you a lot of choices, is I hated like the overexpression ones. And I think Mr. Beast, who, they talk about the beastification of YouTube, he's even stopped doing like the big range of emotion stuff. But that doesn't mean it doesn't need to be like, if you're sad or mad about something, it doesn't mean like that you want to kill someone, but like, furrow your brow or like be a little upset. Yeah.
I mean, the one that we used was basic. It was just emotions. But then like what we had the team do internally was as soon as they did those 30 base emotions, it was like, okay, let's look around our industry and see what different people, like we went to like the fantasy footballers page and we're like, oh, they have ones where they're like pointing both ways. It's just good to have that portfolio depending on what you're doing. And also you could do new ones based on whatever thumbnail. Like once you think of the title, then you're starting to think of creative thumbnail ideas. We did one for one of the vlogs that we just did where it was like J-Mo's leaving for the weekend or whatever. So we had him like, we took pictures of him like packing his bags.
Yeah.
And then we needed me looking that way, like sad at him. So we went out to the hallway and took like 40 pictures of me like looking in that direction with different like facial expressions. So packaging, super fucking important.
Yeah.
You can't go too far to make it correct, I think. And I think that's where it starts off. I do think like a face or a person should be in virtually every thumbnail. I don't think it needs to be you necessarily. Like us, we do a lot of fantasy football stuff, so we could have a player being big, but that should be the subject of it. And that was step number one, was like make that person the subject, make them really, really, really big. And then the next step was the background was flat. They just had like a pure orange background. So he was like, put a little, and this is something I talk about, like texture behind it, right? Like even just a quick fade from like dark green to light green to white makes it look a lot more poppy. And it's something so simple. You just put a little like gradient over it, or find a background from Google or whatever. You could type in on Google, YouTube thumbnail background, and have a million different ones to choose from. Make sure it makes sense though. Like as you can see in the one on the screen, like where the white fades in is behind the person, right? Like don't put a random like white fade in the corner of them. Doesn't really make sense. What I always say is like less is more on the thumbnails. Step 3, too many words in wrong font. Like I think repeating the words from the title to the thumbnail is a huge mistake.
Yeah, never do that.
Yeah, like never copy a phrase, like a full phrase. I think you can copy like a word or two maybe, but a full phrase onto the thumbnail I think is really, really bad practice.
And
because
it's stressful. It's stressful. I'm not gonna lie, because on Punchline we'll do like so we do the main pod and then we clip, and Casey's in charge of you know that process and getting the thumbs done. And on the thumbnail we have a phrase, and so it could be like, "We thought we were gonna die," which is a huge phrase. So we almost want to put that in the title, but that's what goes on the thumbnail, and then the title describes kind of what the clip's about.
Yeah, so yeah, that's where like the real magic happens. Is I like, actually, one thing that I've used a lot, and I used a lot over the summer, was like a quote. Yeah, that's really important. So it like that hooks people on, and it could be a 3 or 4 word quote. Like they changed the entire title on the thumbnail to this phrase that just said, "It's like cheating." So now you're like, how does it tell a story? How do you say it's like cheating? It's like, what's like cheating? So it makes you go down to the title. Right. And if the title is well written, it's like boom.
Yeah, which is about interview tips.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's like the thumbnail.
If you got a tip on how to cheat through an interview that wasn't actually cheating, like that could be valuable. Now I'm clicking in.
Yeah. It's like cheating. 5 almost guaranteed ways to land your dream job. And I think we probably could have made that title a little bit better, but just like the point of it was how smoothly it transitioned from a clean, simple thumbnail with like good spacing, not a whole lot going on. You're super intrigued by it. So a lot of times with design, in my opinion, less is more. And again, like one of the best things that you could do is get high quality photos or images of yourself.
I will say, you know, I'm supposed to have a discussion with the new creator this weekend, and when I was talking to their friend, they were like, I said back to them, I'm like, yeah, because they asked, do you have a playbook? Like, do you have something written down? And I'm like, no, but I could put something together. And I was like, you know,
thumbnails
for creating content. And I was like, okay, what platform? What, you know, is it about the content, or is it just about posting? So I need to know about thumbnails or hashtags or all this different stuff. And I was like, well, first off, is this going to overwhelm the creator so much that they're not going to want to even get started in the first place, which I think is 100% a thing. Because when you talk about the importance of just the texture, someone at home's like, well, I can use remove background and get my face on there, but I don't know how to do texture. And then I got to get the title right, and then I got to do this. So I will say, we've been creating content for years and years and years. We're kind of giving you a guide to skip all of that stuff. But that doesn't mean you need to be here on day one, and you're only going to get there from repetition. Like 100%. You've now created how many YouTube thumbnails in your life? Thousands, right? At this point, and you're still getting better to this day.
And I still have ones that I fire off that I'm like, these suck. You know, sometimes I just don't have it. But like when I get into a creative state, I'm like, oh, these are like fun to make, and I'm thinking about different ones. Sometimes I'll just be making thumbnails for videos I did like 3 months ago, but I'm like, I'm not going to put this up. But like, I want to see what I could do. You know, it's like once you kind of get in your bag with it a little bit, you start to learn these different little tricks, and you experiment, and you go look at ones that work really well, and you follow people that give advice on it. There's so many people that do, like, that's such specific advice. Yeah. Like for just like being better at thumbnails. And the more you do it, like you said, the better you get at it. Yeah. So I did want to transition that into your new YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So you decided to cut down. I think this is so fucking important. Like, I'm excited about this segment right now. You decided to stop posting on the channel that had over 600,000 subs, start it back up from scratch so that you could build an audience that is dedicated and focused on just the new content.
Yeah.
So when you post some things like these subscribers already, like, I know exactly what I'm getting. Mm-hmm. There's a reason I subscribe to this. You've posted 3 videos. This most previous one that you posted 2 days ago already has one. It's like long form, so you're putting out like higher quality, longer form videos.
Yep.
Has, when I looked at this morning, like over 6,000 views. Mm-hmm. Which would that be your most viewed long form video?
Yeah. So
not just on that channel, but I mean like in recent like.
So on Punchline, we've exceeded that, which is
I meant like
which is why, if once again you're new, I deleted our 600,000 subscriber channel, right? Was because I saw that if you started a channel from scratch and all the content matched the theme of the channel, the type of the channel, the old channel, for those who don't know, was a mix of like my sports takes, and then we grew off shorts that were unrelated to the channel, and then we were doing long form, and essentially I felt like the YouTube algorithm didn't know where to send our content to what people, and half the audience was not even US, which I knew from Punchline that's where our audience needed to be. Anyways, fast forward to today, and yes, we literally have footage of like winning the Kentucky Derby, and that video with promotion from outside, from all our pre-existing platforms where we have a ton of following, that video got like 2.2K. And so the first video we did got 2.3K on this new channel. And here were the different levers. Number one, we put it out. After an hour, it had 0 views. So I was like, from my personal stuff, so not using the full Snapback audience, but just my personal stuff, I was like, if you'll watch this full video, like, this is for you, go watch. So we I saw
one of your Instagram stories, like, don't watch if you're not going to watch the
whole thing. Yeah, no, that's how I'll promote every video from now on.
There's still time to delete this.
No, that's how I'll promote every video, because I don't want people watching, because we do have fans who will just watch to support, sure. And they'll watch, and it's like, sure, you'll watch the first one and subscribe, but then 2, 3, 4, 5, you're actually messing up our click-through rate. Sure. So I did it in kind of like a rude way, but I think it set the point to people. Anyways.
If I didn't know you, I would be like, fuck this guy. I'm clicking and clicking off.
Right, exactly, yeah. Then it got boosted to like a couple hundred views, and then we let the algorithm do its thing, and then it hit like 2 random spikes over the next 2 days, and then we pushed it from our stuff. So I would say like 1,500 probably organic, and then 800 from our pre-existing audience. Then video 2, what was video 2? We went to the game. So I think we had more views off the start because we built up a subscriber base of like a couple hundred subscribers, or like 500 subscribers. And then that video probably did 100 organic, and then it hit and got to like 1,000. Then maybe we got like 300 more from our audience. This last video we posted on, Wednesday night, so right before Thanksgiving, and it was doing worse than than the first 2. And then the second day, so then we went to sleep on Thursday, and then went to sleep on Thursday night. But had I not gone to sleep early on Thanksgiving, I would have seen at around like 11 o'clock, it started to get going. And then this was 0 promotion on any other platform, fully algorithm, and it's at like 7,000 views so far.
For the third video on a clean channel, like 7,000 views is crazy.
Yeah. So I want to promote, because I've been talking about it so much. I want to promote.
That's got to feel so fucking good.
I want to promote this. Yeah. And I also want to get our audience in, because I think at this point, like now the views per hour are down to like 30 or 40. So I think like the algorithms decided, all right, this is where we're sending it to for now. It has evergreen potential because it wasn't really related to a game. But I want to promote it and almost see like, because we do need to pull that lever and actually use our pre-existing audience. And maybe the algorithm's like, oh, it did get another influx of people. Like, let's send it out again, see what happens. Anyways, 7,000 views on video 3.
So the biggest takeaway from me here is like, and this is something I've been coming more and more around to over the last like year and a half or so, especially since we started this podcast, is the idea that like almost everything should be separated in social. As much as you can and as much as you feel like at least comfortable with, the more you separate things out, I think the better that they're going to do long term. And it almost like even this podcast, right? Like when I originally started this channel, it wasn't called Big Content.
Yeah.
It was prior to like when you and I got linked up to do this together. It was a channel I was going to launch for me personally to help, found or creators or whatever, become full-time creators. Yeah. And when I announced it, the Twitter video I put out got like 50,000 views on it, and we got 1,000 subs on the channel just from that alone.
Right.
And then I didn't put out content for a while because I got caught up with like office shit. But once we started, my thought was like, man, maybe we should have just like started from a clean channel rather than what people who subscribed expected it to be. And then even going further than that, even like the Q&A that I put out on this channel, I was like, it's definitely the same audience. But part of me was like, do I just start a personal channel for these Q&As? Because it's not exactly like what those people came into, that's how my mind is working now. Because it's like 51-49, but it's leaning more towards separate.
I think this I would keep this, like if I were giving advice and I just went through it, and I think in our gut we knew we should start a new channel, but it was a huge risk. Versus this, you could make an argument like, oh, well, we could probably move a large majority of the audience over. But I do think it's such a match, and it's still you on the channel. Like if someone else was doing business content and there was a new face, maybe. But I think here, and even the solo Q&As, like I think that's the vibe of the channel. Yeah. And so it just
got my mind thinking.
But like, what about for your trivia stuff where you put the vlogs? Like
the overlap there was just like the trivias themselves almost feel like if you watch them on YouTube, it feels like you're in the room with us, and it feels like you're kind of just like hanging out on the couch with us. So it felt like the vibe was kind of similar. But even on that, like there's 2 pieces of content that we put out on the trivia channel that are not trivia that are the worst performing pieces of content. Right. They still perform well just because the floor for that channel is so high. But we do this like Sunday slip thing together. It's like a competition, but it's not trivia. It's like us picking games and spreads for the week, and then the vlogs. They do well because the audience kind of likes everything that we put out. But there's definitely parts of me that are like, we probably should just stick to just fucking trivia for this channel, because YouTube knows what that is, and YouTube knows exactly who wants it, and those people fucking love that stuff.
I think in the future, YouTube's got to create like an umbrella and for a brand like yourself, and whether it's separate channels
that's a cool idea.
Or it's like just subscribing to a playlist. Like no one actually does it, but actually making sure that like, I subscribe to BGE, but I love the trivia content. And like maybe you're shown some of the other content from time to time, but you shouldn't be forced to like put it on that channel.
Yeah. It's interesting. I just think like overall, if you're a creator, because I get the question a lot, like it's like, oh, I have these 2 interests. Like, should I start both of them? Should I put them both on the same channel? Does it matter? If you asked me 5 years ago, whatever, I would have been like, it doesn't just put out shit that you want to put out. Now I'm like,
no, now I would separate.
It can be frustrating because you're gonna waste a lot of time. You're gonna spend a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy, like you guys did on your channel. Like I'm sure you wish now that you had just started from the beginning, but you can't learn that unless you do it.
No. The funny thing is, I don't, because it got us, and I'm not being like, everything happens for a reason, like praise God.
I feel that way though.
No, I actually am happy that we didn't, because the content that we would have started with was not good, and the packaging was not right. Now, so what we were doing originally for Snapback Thursdays, where we go to every Thursday night football game, was like showcasing our experience, and now our stuff is more like idea centric. So this Marlin video, right? Originally we would have just been like, this is what the tailgate's like. Here's a food review at M&T Bank Stadium, and like here's how crazy the fans are. This video, we were like, NFL player takes over our life for 48 hours. This next video, it would have been impossible to make a good video around Jets, Tim Boyle and the Dolphins. But this next video is like in real life bingo, where we're just crossing off like a bunch of different things. And I'm really flexing the muscle of like, I don't want to be like a YouTube star and do all like these gimmicky things. How do we still make it about that? And we're constantly coming up with concepts that do that. So like finding like ex-Jets players that are like LaDainian Tomlinson or Ryan Fitzpatrick, like stuff you would see at a game that's still going to showcase like what it's like to go to the game, but now they're actually conceptualized. So I don't Yeah, I actually think if we had started the channel originally, also out of football season, and we were jumping from like baseball to NASCAR to basketball, I think it probably is for the best. And we're
Okay,
in a good
so
place.
now though, like, are you planning on continuing to go more narrow and more narrow? Like once football season is done.
No, we're gonna try and keep that open because I don't want to just be a football channel. Now, there is a possible argument that it could be like, well, should it be Snapback football, Snapback basketball? But I think what we're going to try and really do is just make it about the content that we're creating and less so attracting like a sport,
Gotcha.
a football.
So people are like just excited to watch it rather than being like,
exactly.
I need you to go to a sport that I actually enjoy.
Yeah.
So it's like the ideas within the content itself.
Yeah, because even this last video, like while it was an NFL player controlling our life, it could have been an NBA player controlling our life. Like the only football thing we did was like some of the challenges were like buy a jersey. You could do that anywhere. Like do a tailgate. You can pretty much do that anywhere. Like win the game. You can do that any game, obviously. So there wasn't really like a ton of football centric stuff. But yeah, it's another good question of like, are we going to have to go down a different route? And we might see that for sure. Like Jesser, right? He's basketball creator. When he goes to football, it's still successful. It might be less successful. And then Disarm, who I'm really hot on right now. I think his content's awesome. He's a baseball guy, but in his content, he does a really good job of like, I'm trying to think if he went to like a basketball or football. I think he did a bunch of football games, and it was like comparing like what makes a football game good versus like what he likes about baseball games. So he's still tying in that baseball audience and making it interesting. And I think to sustain as a creator overall, the biggest thing is you can't get locked into that, which is like you should start there, but you have to think about how can I expand outside of that, or you get trapped and then content gets old and you know, people will walk by you in the industry. So
I will say to one thing you said that was like, oh, we wouldn't have been if we started, the packaging wasn't right, all this kind of wasn't right. Realistically, if I ask you the same question in like 2 years, you probably would say that about the content that you started now.
We will. Yeah.
So it's almost like I don't want people to get discouraged to be like, oh, I'm not ready for it. Like you do, if you don't have the learning experience and like the years put in already, you do just have to jump in and learn that shit up front. But I do think there is real cadence, YouTube specifically for sure, to make sure that you are staying within like your niche because your audience comes for that. Whereas other platforms like the TikToks or whatever, it's way more interest based.
You still need it though.
You still need some continuity, but like you can put out random things that all like kind of pop off and build an audience that way.
If you're a personality, but if you're like a fantasy football person, you start posting other stuff like isn't adjacent, you're done.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the best way to build like it's the best way to have a real roadmap, I think, because you know exactly what you can offer your audience. Like if you start building an audience through 7 different subjects or topics or passions or whatever, it's like if you try to sell things, monetize things, work with a sponsor, whatever, like you don't really know what you're going to get. It could work, but most of the time it probably won't work because you don't actually know who you're speaking to.
100%. All right. Well, we're moving to LA because we're YouTubers now.
Promise.
Next up is a tweet that I sent out. And so Casey showed me a very short clip, or maybe I was just overheard him listening to it. It was essentially Big Cat and Dave Portnoy from Barstool talking about Barstool sponsoring a college basketball game or a set of 2. Apparently they got a lot of backlash because they're screaming about the bets they have, which is their brand, but people are like, it was the only way to watch the game. So I get that. It wasn't an alternate broadcast. But their takeaway was essentially them saying, we'll never do this again because it took us, it's 8 hours of personalities time, and like our hourly time is worth a lot. We don't make money on it. It stresses out like all our business people. And on top of that, it's like people are just mad at us anyways for it. Like we'll never do this again. And I like it was listening to it. And in 3 hours, we were about to throw a 250 person tailgate at the Ravens game. Much smaller, obviously in scale, but just as hectic. Like we spent the entire week physically driving to the liquor store, buying the beer, getting the food ready. Like it took 10 people and we made $- on it as well. And I walked away from it. Like I could not have disagreed more. And the biggest thing was he said, we'll never do it again. And I wrote in the tweet, which we'll have on the screen here, that like, is it the best uses of resources right now because they're trying to fix like profitability? They went from public company now to self-funded. Sure. Like if you want to say right now, it makes no sense. I get that. I hear that you're trying to cut costs, but to say that like that isn't so big for your brand, that isn't so big for your community. Like what Barstool is, in my opinion, is for the people. And I don't know. It inspired me when they first came out that they were going to sponsor a bowl game. I literally went from, okay, I think Barstool is great. I have a lot of respect for them, to holy shit, they just changed the game. Like I would have never thought 10 years ago that this tiny media company could sponsor a bowl game. Like for whatever reason.
It was a basketball game that
but years ago they were going to sponsor the Arizona, and then COVID happened, and I don't think it ended up.
Don't you think like this instance where they're like, we'll never do it again, is more of just this one-off of like, we had a terrible experience doing this basketball game? They do a ton of live events.
Yes.
I think they have the same energy that you do towards them.
But they were saying, we'll never sponsor like a game again, was the vibe that I was getting. They're obviously going to continue doing live events. And maybe they're saying, we'll only do live events that are profitable to us, because I'm sure they do a lot of that. I just think
I can't imagine that though, because I bet like a bunch of the early ones that they did live events, they've obviously gotten way better at it, but they probably weren't making money off of it.
That's why this was so shocking to me, and it felt reactionary, and they were probably just like pissed because of all that. But I just wanted to call that out because of like, I think what that means in the market is just so important.
On live events, I'll just talk about that. I also feel like you've done a number of live events now. We have as well. You have to do like 5 live events before you even think about being profitable at it. You have to be so bad at it and lose a lot of money and learn so many things before you're like, whoa, we might actually make money on this one. Yeah. And then usually once you have that thought, you don't make money on that one. There's like 2 or 3 more, and then you might make money on it.
I'm trying to think if we've even done a live event that made money. The only reason that we even like came close to breaking even on this one was because I pretty much didn't. I don't even know if I want to say this publicly, but like we didn't pay for security. We had my uncles cooking food, but
that's how you got to do it though when you're starting off.
You do. But then again, like there's event companies that make serious money, and I've talked to them, like a medium rare, for example, that will throw like Gronk's Beach and stuff like that. The majority of their money is actually from sponsorship. Yeah. And so like you need an entire team selling sponsors into the event to even begin to make money, like Barstool's or like Dave's Pizza Fest.
But I mean, that's the difference. And that's like where I think a lot of the charm for these things come from. It's like, you can get a professional organization. It's like, we could pay to get a DJ and maybe the party's better, but also like my homie has a good playlist. Those are the differences between the live events. I think that like money goes into it. It's really like knowing your audience, I guess. But. Yeah.
The next one was from Tom Grossi Comedy. He quote tweets the NFL. So the NFL put out a post, catch your favorite creators all season long in the NFL YouTube channel for behind the scenes moments and exclusive access. So essentially the NFL let a bunch of YouTube creators, mostly I want to say shorts creators, but a lot of long form too, go to the game of the week. And what that would look like, they get like a minute video that becomes a short, and it's their experience, and they get like sideline passes, maybe they get to meet up with a player, whatever it might be. And so Tom wrote, absolutely no disrespect for these creators, which I appreciate him writing that, because I think people take that personally. This is where the disconnect is. There's so many talented smaller creators whose content focuses on the NFL or a specific team. This is the kind of platform that would be perfect to showcase them. I don't know if I agree, and I'm probably in Tom's boat, and I was not selected by the NFL. There's a lot of NFL creators. For one, the NFL has essentially captured those creators and their audience. So it makes more sense to go outside and grow the game, right? And grow the league and put more attention to it. Right?
So they had...
So some of the creators that they had were just like... Not fashion or food, or right? So like they're attached to the game in some fashion, but they're not like NFL football creators, right?
Yeah, I think the original tweet, I don't know the guy that tweeted it out. It's also not the NFL's job, like, to showcase smaller creators.
That was going to be kind of my second part is like, you're a smaller creator. It's like, what is the give and take here, right? Should they be putting you on and then you create better content, which is great for your audience? Or these people have 2 million followers, so they're going to opt to that person. And while I think it would be great if they did embrace those smaller creators, I just don't, at the end of the day, like I've been in situations where the decision was made because like someone else just had more followers and it was going to bring more.
Yeah. This feels like it wasn't, I don't think the person's intent was to like virtue signal and like put things out there for like clickbait.
Yeah.
This is like a level of virtue signaling. It kind of feels like where it's like, oh, you should be doing this for like the younger creators and like, let's grow the game. It's like, you don't probably really care.
He probably just wants to be included.
Yeah.
But I'm only bringing this up because I've been in the spot where I'm like, this person makes no sense. Like, why is this person getting this opportunity? Like
you don't know the conversations of the NFL people. Like, you know what I mean? Like the people that chose those people.
We talked about it months back, but like when they did the Sunday ticket announcement launch, like I knew creators they were working with that weren't going to drive a single sale, right? So, you know, it's 100 different creators. They're trying to scramble and they're like, oh, this person has 2 million followers versus like this person has 100,000. But yeah, this is part of it.
That to me, that screams a lack of like understanding from anything but your own point of view. Like, I'll give you an example.
Right.
Working with like Underdog, right? There are times when I see them work with big celebrities or NFL players or athletes or whoever it is. And I know in my head, I'm like, this person's not going to drive a single sign up to them. I've never ran a business of 200 people that has spent a marketing budget of whatever. I have no idea what the marketing budget is. This big. Getting to scale is bigger than just continuously paying a YouTuber that has 100,000 subscribers. Branding is different. Right? You can't measure that all the time. And that came from like my first mindset was like, this is dumb. Like, I don't know why not just like double what you're paying us and find it, you know what I mean? And then as you start to understand things that you've never seen before or look at angles that you've never seen before and people tell you and teach you about these things, you start to realize like, oh, this is what they were thinking. I didn't know that because I'm not in the room with them and I've never understood how to, this kid is trying to speak for the NFL. Like this is how the NFL should be run. What if they had a marketing initiative that was like, for the next 3 months, we want to capture this fashion industry because there's going to be a large overlap between Taylor Swift fans and you know what I mean? There's so many things that you don't know and a lot of the times when you speak about things out of context, you're going to sound like an idiot in the long term. Yeah. So what I've really came down to as like someone who has a platform is I don't typically speak on things anymore at all unless I have a really sharp understanding or comfortability with the subject at hand.
Yeah. It's one of those where everyone is not thinking about you. Like everyone's always worried about themselves. This is what that tweet kind of is. You're not thinking what's best for the NFL. You're thinking about what's best for the small creator, which might be yourself.
Like that kind of tweet just feels like a lack of understanding, but also like an attempt to just like, you know that this subject will hit a lot of people and people will be like, yeah, the younger creators, like the smaller creators, like everyone let's like rally around and fucking yell at the NFL. And it's like, I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah. Also from experience, like being involved in a creator program or any of this stuff, it rarely does anything for you. No. Like rarely, like, all right, you have field passes to the game. You're now viral. You're now going crazy. Like, no, your content's going to be pretty much the same. You might hit a football audience, but that person with 2 million subscribers is still probably going to get more viewership than you, unless you come up with something really good. And guess what? If you come up with something really good, you probably don't need that field pass. And the NFL putting you in the 19th second of their reel is not, you're not getting following.
What those situations will do for you, if you are good at networking, is you getting in vicinity with the right people, having a good conversation, and then something can spurn from that. But like these one-off little hits of things that you think will make you viral are just never it as a creator.
Yeah, for example, we seed our punchline content to bigger media companies to hopefully get traction. And the first tool that's ever been effective in doing this is like this collaboration on Instagram, right? Like a tag, you'll maybe get like a few followers, but collab, like we will see,
that was I love that.
That was awesome.
That was a great tool.
That was Instagram, great for them.
For sure.
So then I sent something to ESPN and they picked it up it was on like ESPN College Football, ESPN College Game Day, like on Instagram, LSU football account, all collabed on this.
Yeah.
And we were in parentheses, like via Punchline podcast with Marlon Humphrey. And I was like, we didn't get tagged or collab. We gained like 4 followers, maybe from that. The last thing is tying this whole thing together to where you were saying creator into a creator product that really fits. And Friday Beers, which is a media company, just launched their actual light beer. So you could probably argue it's a few years after they should have, because like that stuff could have been done earlier, but at least they got there, finally got there. Another example of
do you know how long it took for them to do that?
I don't know.
Right. How do you know that process didn't start 2 years ago?
It might have.
Probably did.
But it from the marketing of it, and this is just the launch, it looks like it's just another light beer that they're going to use a lot of brand and name off of, which isn't bad when your brand is literally Friday Beers. So yeah, I know the people who actually worked on it. I can ask them about it for next time. But in a positive, I think it's just like an awesome, like this is the dream, and this is what we pitch all the time, which is create content and then build a product that fits into that content. And every single Friday, they like everyone who has a beer on Friday takes a picture, tags them. And now it's just going to be reposting.
I think that's another one too, like making a product. Like there are a lot of ways to make products. The one I brought up earlier, like the title generator, I think like the software or the online e-product is perfect for an informational value person who's teaching you stuff, because the audience is like learning online. So therefore the tool is online, whatever. I think when you're a brand that's built their value off of entertainment, that's where products do really, really, really well. Whether it's merch or it's like a product that aligns with what you're doing, that's a really good sync up right there. So if you're a brand building off of like comedy, value through entertainment, physical products are a really, really good link, I think.
Another thing that they're going to be able to do now with this product is like throw events where typically they'll have free marketing in that. Like every person will be drinking Friday beer. So I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be cool. I don't know how much value their name brings. Like if you're in that demo and if I were walking through a store, I would buy Friday Beers
over
now.
like Miller Lite, yeah, for sure.
I don't know, Cold Miller
Does nothing for me.
I grew up on that stuff, so it hits.
I wonder. I'm actually kind of curious now, though. Like beer has to be as the least popular it's been in maybe ever.
Yeah, I get what you're saying with like seltzers counting as a separate category.
I can't name the last party I went to where the majority of people were drinking beer over.
I can't name the last party I went to. So that's tough.
I went to like 4 parties on Halloween night, and nobody was drinking beer.
Yeah, no, people drink liquor or seltzers.
Like if you went to a party that like Friday Beers was sponsoring, like you weren't allowed to drink anything but beer, I feel like a lot of people would be like, "Fuck."
They would pregame hard for sure.
They would pregame hard, yeah.
No, I think like
free
like
people,
tailgates definitely a thing.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we probably straight up parties, yes, or
like
at the bar.
Well, this
people drink beer though.
Sure,
a shit ton of
this
beer.
is one of those things where I don't care about numbers. I don't need to look at numbers to know that, because my anecdotal experience is like everywhere I go, people are just drinking seltzers. Yeah, people are drinking seltzers.
I think it's just the split has happened, right? I don't think people are drinking less. They're definitely drinking more.
Beer consumption for sure in the bigger cities has to be so far.
I'm saying just alcohol
5 years
consumption.
Ago.
Yeah,
sure. We're all depressed. I mean, it's fucking pitch black out. It's 4:30.
Yeah. So Friday Beers, I want to try one, and that's the last part is your product has to be good. So if that beer's not good, like that's what everyone always says about what's Nelk's brand, Happy Dad.
Happy Dad.
I don't know if they pay the people to say it, but everyone I talk to is like, yeah,
it's good.
It's actually good.
Yeah.
And that's important. I think same thing, High Noon. Same thing with all the tequila brands that all the celebrities do. Like it has to be good. It's a light beer, so it shouldn't be that hard, but we'll see. That's all I got. And I want to go get a Friday beer now.
We'll leave you at that every Monday. Big content at noon. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you join the free Discord if you want to ask us any questions or be featured in the next Q&A that we do. Hit the button that looks like this if you enjoyed. Share this, more importantly, with any creators that you think could learn from this. We're always open. Our DMs are open to help you all out.
All right, last thing.
Hang.
Speed. Rank these 3 on YouTube. What do you think is most important to the algorithm? Subscribe, there's a new viewer. They subscribe, they leave a like, or they leave a comment.
I would say subscribe, like, comment.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Subscribe has to be a better indicator because I feel like YouTube is caught up to the fact that like people just comment, or it's like bots, or people just like comment shit to do it. I feel like they've.
No, like
do you know the answer to this?
No, I don't. And I would have always thought, I think subscribe one, but I would have always thought comment. But now I'm thinking it's like second. Yeah. So I think I'm aligned with you. Like, and the only reason why I think it's important is because people are often asking people to subscribe, but then leave a comment. Like, we'll do stuff where we're trying to get comments, but often I feel like I want to see more likes.
Yeah, I don't know how much comments really do. Plus, a like can never be interpreted by YouTube as a bad thing.
Right.
Whereas there might be like keywords in comments that YouTube's like not good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like
maybe
you can
all
spam
engagement
comments,
is
bots.
not,
Yeah. No one really spams likes.
Yeah. It's impossible, I think. I don't know. Unless maybe.
The like farm.
Yeah.
All right. That's all. Till next time.
Hang.